Hey there, Nelson Gasky here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how I went from this socially uncalibrated kid in engineering school to the high-performing, emotionally intelligent engineer that I am today. It wasn't until I was already out in the workforce that I realized that I had done myself quite a disservice to not care more about my emotional and social intelligence while I was going through all of my schooling. I don't exactly know who to blame, and I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but my main point that I want to get across in my videos is that you can do a lot more in your engineering career if you just have a little bit of social and emotional intelligence, because the bar is so incredibly low just due to the fact that most engineers just kind of had their head down and they don't understand what's going on around them, that you can do so well if you just have like the smallest bit of consciousness. And I really think if I had someone tell this to me 10 years ago, I would be leagues ahead of where I already am, because I've only been really focusing on this for the past few years. It was unconscious. I was unconsciously working on these things. And I think if you were to take a more conscious effort, you could get a lot further, a lot faster. So I went from the kid in college who just kind of was, head down, playing too many video games, not really socializing, not really going to parties, not really learning how to interact with people. So I didn't really go to parties, I didn't really go to bars or anything, which, kept my grades pretty high, which was probably good for me to get my degree. But there was definitely some time squandered being around other people that were my age, because once you get out into the working world, you very quickly realize that university is the best time that you have to really network with people that are purely your age. Because, once you get out, you got people from 23 to now it's 70? I don't know. People keep working just because they don't know what to do besides work at this point. And it's one of those things where you just kind of need to pay attention. And I think my spark, the thing that really got me to start paying attention to all of this, was when I actually learned about someone who had died at the office during business hours, which was pretty stupefying to me. That wow, okay, this person, not only were they not retired, but they literally were in the office when they died. And it was during lunch. And it's wow, this is actually really startling, because, I was in my early 20s, and it's just wow, this person didn't even, they were never even done. This is crazy. So that's when I really started to be wow, I need to open my eyes. This is not the panacea that I thought it would be getting out of engineering school. So once I started to see this, that, obviously had quite a bit of self-reflection there. And then I kind of took it upon myself to be okay, I need to learn how to do better at socializing. So I kind of threw myself into socializing more. Had a whole bunch of new social circles that I started going and interacting with, lots more parties. So I wasn't being super conscious or really paying attention to this stuff. And I really think that my massive improvements started to come years later when I started to really just sit and do some journaling. And this gets into the emotional intelligence part, where just the journaling and starting to get some self-awareness to really understand where I'm at and what's going on subconsciously. Because a lot of that stuff, if you just suppress it, I was doing that for a few years too. If you just sit there and suppress it, you're eventually going to have a Ned Flanders blow up. So you're going to just blow your top, and hopefully it doesn't happen at work or, against your partner, because really you just don't want to be blowing up anywhere, or you're going to have a meltdown, which is basically the implosion instead of explosion, which is more akin to what I had. And that was I saw it as peeling layers of an onion. So you're peeling your layers of the onion back, and then I started to realize, okay, I really need to start paying attention to how I'm feeling in the moment. And once I started doing that, and I started with journaling, so you can go through a variety of different exercises. So you can go through journaling, and then you get into trying to catch how you're feeling in the moment, and then remember to either write that down or be hey, just give me a second, that triggered me or whatever, and you can take a step back and ease up or excuse yourself from whatever more intense situations going on. And you can be a lot more self-aware. And once you're more self-aware, then you can start working on regulating your emotions. So these things that trigger you, you can learn how to not get as triggered, or to, stop trying to cage the cloud. So the cloud's coming past and you're going to stop trying to cage the cloud, because it's a fruitless effort. So you just need to be like, wow, look at that dark cloud. There it goes. So once you can learn how to regulate, then you can have room for empathy. And empathy is where you really start getting ahead in your career, in my opinion, because you can start really cutting out all that initial stuff and getting right to a rapport with people, especially if you're there in person with them, and you can start to build charisma for yourself. Because once you can start having charisma to where you can learn how to actively listen to someone else, to understand them, instead of just having two monologues that happen to be in the same room, which is a lot of what engineers do, you really get far. Because it's pretty rare, at least in my experience, that most engineers would care to learn about all this stuff. And so if you can set yourself apart in this way, when it comes time for raise discussions, promotion discussions, you'll tacitly know where to position yourself better than your peers, because you will be paying more attention than they will. And this is the kind of thing where you're playing this game with all of your peers. It doesn't have to be particularly nefarious or malignant, but you're playing a game, and I would like you to learn how to be better at the game. So if you're going to work, you can't opt out. You're going to be playing, so you can either choose to be good or you can lose. Those are your two options. I chose to be better, and I choose to be better every day. And that's actually my main goal now, to try to get better at something every day and to bring more consciousness to what I'm doing. So if I'm going to spend 40 hours a week of my life doing something, I want it to have the most impact that it can, both personally and professionally, for me as well as those around me. So I try to go to work with an open mind and being very conscious. Especially these days, I've been very, very conscious of the messaging. So what's going on with messaging around me? I find messaging to be the biggest blind spot that I have been seeing since I've been opening my eyes. Is just okay, who are you trying to talk to? So it's just you have to understand who your audience is. You have to understand what level of technical depth you actually need to get to for what they care about. And you need to know how to make your message concise. You can put all this stuff together. Now you can really see the political landscape, understand socially where people sit, and who's going to respond in what way. That gets into the emotional stuff, as well as the technical content. So you have the IQ. So you really have the emotional intelligence, the social intelligence, and the regular intelligence all kind of coming together. The Venn diagrams are nearly overlapped. So once you start focusing on your EQ, SQ, and IQ together, you can really start to synergize these things. I've been getting some very positive feedback recently at work due to the fact that I'm actually paying attention to who's in the room, who's in the group, who's on the email chain, and I'm curating my message so that it's approachable for whoever I'm sending it to. Or if we're in a large group, for example, I see some finger pointing going on, and I have the EQ to know, wow, you know how not aware it would be for me to call out finger pointing by finger pointing? So that's the kind of stuff that will really put you ahead of a lot of your engineering peers, because most engineers will just finger point right back because they don't have the EQ to understand that, wow, this is kind of nuts for me to finger point, to call out finger pointing. That's a bit silly. And it's something that, again, it's very personal feedback, very positive feedback as well. And I expect that to help me down the track. So these are the kind of things that start to happen. And now everything synergizes. All these things synergize. And just starting to be more conscious is something that is very easily done today. And I think you should do it. If you enjoyed learning a little bit about my journey to become a social engineer and would like to become one yourself, check out my link in the description below and join my social engineer network. I hope to see you there.